Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus and his disciples arrived at Bethsaida, people brought to him a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Putting spittle on his eyes, he laid his hands on the man and asked, "Do you see anything?" Looking up, the man replied, "I see people looking like trees and walking." Then he laid hands on the man's eyes a second time, and he saw clearly. His sight was restored, and he could see everything distinctly. Then he sent him home and said, "Do not even go into the village." The Gospel of the Lord. Last week I had my annual visit with my ophthalmologist and had my vision checked. And of course you've all gone, is this better or worse? Better, worse? A, better than B? C, better than D? And you keep going back and forth whether you can see more and more clearly. It's interesting to note a couple of analogies that fit, especially in today's gospel. Our vision changes, and perhaps it should change, but it should change always for the better, so that we can see more clearly. And even in the gospel today, there's a developmental aspect to this healing. Jesus has to try twice. And it reminds us of the very important principle of education, that all learning is developmental. We don't start with the most complicated of ideas. You have to learn how to crawl before you can walk. And so the reality then even of our faith, that it's developmental, and the beautiful prayer that is sung in Gospel, to see thee more clearly, that we can see in our faith lives an ever-growing developmental nature to it, that we're not all finished products, and that our faith continues to be refined and glow. And perhaps there are some aspects of our faith that we see only blurry, like walking trees. I'm not quite sure what I'm seeing. And continue to pray to Jesus as the blind man did, to be able to see clearly as possible, knowing that every once in a while our vision does need adjustment. In the first reading today, we have the beautiful, once again, we're made so beautifully aware of something that we take so much for granted. We all woke up this morning knowing that eventually it's going to get brighter and brighter. And we take for granted the rhythm of the universe. I've always been enthralled with the physics of planets and how absolutely regular everything is, and that maybe every 100 years or so we might have to add a second to our clock, because that's how precise everything is, and it just happens so predictably. As long as the earth lasts, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. What a comforting thought, that you and I don't have to worry about those events happening, though we do have to take care, as Pope Francis reminds us, of the earthly homeland that God has given us. May God help us to see ever more clearly with eyes of faith, knowing that God is still and always working his healing power in our lives. And may our faith grow ever stronger in our hearts and in our minds, that we might always be grateful for God, for all of God's gifts.